Yeah, man. That's the stuff. Yeah. Boy, we sure need that now, don't we?
Don't we?
It's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am so, oops, I can stop my share. I am so happy to have the really lovely Gail Boyd on. And yeah, it's really, I'm very much looking forward to our conversation. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Isn't she beautiful, ladies and gentlemen? She's just, your spirit shines through so beautifully.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I met Gail in New York at I went there for the jazz conference, but this was, I think that was part of APAP. Was that part of APAP, the John Clayton big band?
That was part of my showcase.
Oh, yes.
I did a showcase at Yamaha for the Clayton Hamilton Jazz Orchestra. In fact, I had all of my clients on my roster there that day. They performed all that day, and that's the last live music that I've heard. So there must have been a reason for me to have my entire roster perform.
Oh my God.
I got a chance to hear everybody, and then shortly thereafter, everything shut down.
Yeah, it seems longer to me, like longer ago than
Yeah, I
just,
know.
it wasn't even quite a year, but yeah, that was a really beautiful experience. I mean, coming from my perspective as the audience,
Mhm.
it was a let me just grab that so I can not hear it. um, it was a beautiful space,
Thank you.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the people in the room were, it was everybody who, well, I mean, just being there at that time with all these people, it's people who know what jazz is,
Yes.
and they know the people. And so you get not only an appreciation, but you get kind of I'm not being a snob, but it's just a higher appreciation because people really know, so
Well,
you feel
I
that.
do that. I have every year for the last 10 years, I had done a showcase there at Yamaha during APAP.
Yeah.
And I would invite presenters to come because that's why you're at APAP, because you want to show your um, clients off to
Yes.
presenters and buyers.
Right.
So 10 years ago, I decided that Yamaha was an excellent place to do that because I could have food and I could have wine and people. So the presenters would come, but I always thought it was important to have ordinary jazz lovers in the room too.
Yeah.
So it got to the point where every year some of the same people would say, "Are you having that showcase?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, come on down." So it would be standing room only, but it would be presenters and just regular people who really love jazz, and that I did that every year.
That's such a good idea because that really mixes up the vibe, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because so often the presenters are coming and they're just looking, to hear if they're hearing something different and they can decide if they can fit your client into their program. And so they're busy. I mean, they're actually working, they're doing, their numbers and all that.
Yeah.
But it's also, I thought, important for people to be there so that at the end of every song you would hear the claps, you would hear the applause, you would hear the okay, go ahead. You'd hear all that while people were doing, and you could see presenters kind of looking up to notice that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it makes a difference to have just ordinary jazz lovers in the audience rather than a dry showcase.
Yeah. That's such a good idea.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. So, gosh, there's so much to to talk about. Hey, let's just talk about that piece of music and what happened. So, is Hank Williams your client as well, or
No,
just?
Hank Jones. Hank
I mean,
Jones.
Hank Jones, Hank
No,
Williams.
he wasn't. I've been representing John Clayton now since 1994, so we're
Oh
26
my
years in.
God! Wow.
And at one point, he came to me and he said, "I've got an idea. It's a crazy idea, but I'd like to do it." And he said, "I want to do a duo concert with some of my favorite people, and
Oh,
I'm going to pay for everything.
nice.
And if they tell me what their fee is, I'm going to pay them, and we're going to go into the studio completely unrehearsed and just work something out in the studio. So there'll be no rehearsal. I just want us to go in and I want to capture that moment. And I'm going to call it the Parlor Series."
Yeah.
So he did. So Hank Jones was one of his first that he really wanted to do. And finally, Hank said yes. It was the same year, if I'm not mistaken, that he passed away. So it might
Oh,
be next to one of the last things he recorded.
yeah.
But they met for breakfast someplace in LA and just talked it through. And John's mother was a pianist in the church for many years, and he knew all of those songs, and of course Hank did. And so they came up with, why don't we just do a bunch of spirituals? And they just went in the studio and played around, and that album came out as a result of it.
Nice. Well, Hank Jones has always been one of my very favorites. And
Yeah.
pianists, for me, I've just noticed over the years that there's something. It's not that every instrument has its uniqueness, right? But somehow piano is, when somebody really gets to me, it just I don't know, it kind of makes a big impression on me. And Hank
Yeah.
Jones, just, I mean, the classiest
Yes.
most elegant magician. Because you reach the magic, and just, and another thing about him, oh gosh, here I go, waxing poetic. But, when I first, well, I grew up listening to jazz because my dad was a sax player. But
Uh,
um, when I kind of came into it on my own,
mhm, mhm.
uh, my sister had taken me. I don't even know why I went to see them. But anyway, we went to the jazz workshop in Boston,
Uh-huh.
and we saw the Modern Jazz Quartet. And
Wow.
we were sitting like in the front row, right in
Wow.
front of the piano. And I was totally blown away and sold. But one of the things that struck me was, I mean, later I could describe what it was, but it was the the respect and the humbleness and the ethics, and there was something really uh, in, innately beautiful about all that to me.
Mhm.
And I think that really drove me towards jazz, like
And
just deeper and
MJQ were
deeper.
always just so elegant.
Yeah,
That I mean, not only did they play, so
yeah,
beautifully,
yeah,
but they were such elegant
yeah,
gentlemen.
right.
I love that about them.
Yeah. And Hank Jones obviously
Yes.
was like
Yes.
the king of elegance.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. I once was in Japan, and I was friends with Sam Most, the flute player,
Mhm.
and he happened to be in Japan with Hank and
Wow.
Ray Brown and that drummer. Oh, I won't remember his name. Really great drummer from Boston, and and went and hung out and watched them play. And oh my God, it was really exciting and wonderful.
Nice.
Okay, well, back to you. So you, well, I mean, you can tell me. I'm not going to like lead you so drastically, but what I'd like to know is what happened along the way as you grew up? You obviously became a lawyer,
Yes.
and I'm assuming that you loved jazz all your life because otherwise, why go there? But
Right.
what happened along the way?
So I tell this story often. My father and mother were divorced when I was very young. My father in Chicago, my father was what was called back then a record turner. In other words, he was a disc jockey in the nightclubs. It wasn't on radio, but record turners were the people where record companies would go to them and give them records, because then if you play it in the club and people get up and they hear it and they go up to the disc jockey and say, hey, what is that? And you say, well, that's Stanley Turrentine. Then they go to the record shop the next day and buy the records. So my
Cool.
father had a tremendous collection of albums because of that, because he got so many of them free.
Yeah.
So whenever I would visit my father, he didn't know what to do with a 7 or 8 year old. So all he did all day pretty much was play jazz for me. And so I'd be listening to this jazz, and he'd say, who is that on trumpet? And I'd say, Blue Mitchell. And he'd say, wrong, Fats Navarro. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that was kind of what we did.
Oh
That
my
was like our
God.
thing. It was like I couldn't wait to get back so we could do more jazz listening. So I knew very early that I wanted to be a lawyer. But by the time I was 12, I knew I wanted to be an entertainment lawyer.
Oh, wow.
And so,
That's amazing.
well, my mother has said at 4, you have to pick something. What is it that you want to be? And I said, I don't know, I'm 4. And she's like, that's okay. Just pick something. You can change your mind later, but if you're not striving for something, what are you doing? So I'm like, okay, I'll be a lawyer. So I already knew I wanted to be a lawyer,
Wait,
but
no, wait. At 4, why did you think of a lawyer? Was your mother a
I think,
lawyer?
no, I had nobody who had even graduated from college at that point in my whole
Yeah.
family. But probably because Perry Mason was out or something, it was something like that.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
And so by 12, though, I knew I wanted to be an entertainment lawyer. And now, couple that with knowing a lot about jazz at that point, at that age, it was kind of natural. So I'm in high school, I'm 15 years old, and my father had mentioned to me that John Coltrane Quartet was going to be at this club in Chicago. I keep forgetting the name of it, but that he was going to be there. It was like one night only. And so I told my mother that I was going to stay with my father that night. And I told my father I was going home. So I would do that to get a few extra hours in there if I wanted to sneak and do stuff. I was a pretty good kid, so sneaking would be going someplace and listening to jazz. so, so I went to the club, right, book bag in hand, and I said to the owner, I want to see John Coltrane. And he said, how old are you? And I said, I'm 15. I don't want to drink. I just want to see John Coltrane. And he said, well, come back when it's open and because the place was like downstairs. I remember that. And he said, come back and I'll let you sit at the top of the stairs and see him. And so I did. I walked around until it was 8 o'clock and I went back. And so I saw John Coltrane like this. I was at the top of the stairs kind of looking down, and it was Elvin Jones, it was McCoy Tyner, it was Jimmy Garrison, and John Coltrane.
Oh boy.
And they played one song for like 30 something minutes and I was sold. I was sold. So then not only did I know I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be an entertainment lawyer. And after that, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer working in jazz. So that's kind of how the whole thing started.
Yeah. So you were 15. So when did you become a lawyer?
So 1975 is when I graduated from law school. So I've been out now 45 years.
Yeah.
And doing pretty much entertainment law. I did do some litigation when I first started. When you first start, you have to kind of get your feet wet. Yeah. But it was always dealing with employment, contractual things that would help me in entertainment law.
Yeah. Hi, Marla. Marla Clement is on. You know Marla?
No.
She's the daughter of Rebecca Paris. Do you remember Rebecca?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and Rebecca had adopted Marla. When Marla was an adult. It was a real sweet story. And Marla still lives in Boston. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, she knows a lot about jazz.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So let's see. Okay, so you're coming up. And who was your first client?
I would say that my first actual client who paid me money was probably Sherry Scott, who was the original female member of Earth, Wind, and Fire. Okay. And she had left the group by that time, but she was a jazz singer in and around Chicago. Yeah. And I think I probably would say she was my first. And then at one point I worked in Jerry Butler's office, who was the R&B singer in Chicago. I volunteered in his office for a while just so I could learn the ropes and see what contracts and things look like. And then in 1980, I'm forgetting now, I'm getting old, but it was in the early 80s, I paid money to go see Betty Carter in Chicago. Yeah. And if you paid a little bit more money, you could go to the after set and, meet and greet kind of thing. And she was standing there and she said, it must have been about 80. Oh, I can tell you exactly when it was because my son was born in 1978. So that's when it was. It was because he was like 2 months old. So I'm hearing her say to this crowd who was crowded around her, boy, if I knew somebody who could get me on the Black college circuit, that would just be great. So I kind of made my way through the crowd and I said, I could do that. And she said, really, how? And so right then and there, I just outlined this whole plan for getting her on the Black college circuit. And she said, young lady, I can tell from the way you're saying that you have absolutely no idea how to do what you just said. And I didn't. And she said, but I like the fact that you came up with a plan, just like that. And she gave me her phone number and said, if you're ever in New York, look me up. So I went home and I told my husband that I had to go to New York the next week. I was going to go to see Betty Carter. Yeah. And he said, but you got a 2-month-old. He was 2 or 3 months old. And I said, I'm going to take him with me. So I called Betty and it said, it just so happens I'm going to be in New York next week. And she said, oh, okay, well, come on over. So I go to her house with my baby, and she fell in love with a reef. And she's like got a reef in her hand while we're talking about, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to be an entertainment lawyer. And she said, well, what do you know how to do now? And I'm like, well, basically right now I'm just doing wills and, landlord tenant and stuff like that. She said, okay, well then do my will. And I did.
It's cool.
And she said, how much do I owe you? And I said, $150. And she wrote me a check for $1,500. And I said, no. I said $150. And she said, well, now you owe me hours so you can tell people that Betty Carter is your client. And that's
so
how
cool.
that's how I
Wow.
got, that was my first.
Wow.
My real first. I mean, the one that like broke it through for me.
Yeah. Oh, you must have been in heaven.
Oh, I still tell people that I learned, even today, maybe 60% of what I know, I learned from her in that very short period of time. She was such a good business person. And a lot of musicians talk about how she was able to, bring new musicians, Stephen Scott and Benny Green and Mulgrew Miller and all these people.
Yeah.
But she did the same thing for people in the business.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, at the jazz conference, they had you probably were there. They had like about 15 of her previous musicians.
I was on stage.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't remember that part. And that was really wonderful. And it really showed her, kind of tough love. I was just actually rewatching and editing my interview with Diane Reeves, who had a lot of, connection with Betty. And we were talking about that. And she had some great stories, about communicating with Betty and how Betty helped her. And she was amazing.
She was very, very important to a lot of people.
Yeah. Diane called her what's his name? Okay, I can't get it, but like a living school, Art Blakey.
Art Blakey,
yeah.
Blakey and Betty had a very similar point of view in terms of bringing people through the University of Betty Carter or the University of Art Blakey. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's so cool. That's just another wonderful, cool thing about really a lot of jazz people, right? Especially the statesmen. And, they live really well as good human beings. And then, and just by that, they teach us just by their living,
That's right.
Yeah, it's really nice. So, wow. So I'm just curious if you remember, what was the next thing you did for Betty after that first meeting? Did you?
The very next thing, the very first job I did for her was getting her out of a contract to perform at Snug Harbor in Staten Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. And I can't remember why she needed to get out of it, but I was able to get her out of that. And then she was trying to get some of her masters back from a label. So, but I was learning too. So she would say, I know you don't really know how to do this, but this is what I want done. So this is how I want the story to end. You can figure out how to get it done. And that's why I say so much of what I learned from her, because she said, you got to figure it out, but here's the end point. This is where I want to end up. So I don't know how to tell you to get there. You'll have to, ask around, get other attorneys to tell you. But I mean, she knew I was new and learning.
Yeah. So are you hello? Are you an artist manager?
Now I am, yes.
Okay, and so that just probably occurred extremely naturally.
Well, Betty also had a little bit of something to do about that, because she was doing a concert at the Boston Pops with David Amram in 1983 or 4, around like that.
Cool.
And
I love David.
And it was going to be great. And she and her manager, Ora Harris, and Joanne Jimenez, and there were a bunch of people, and they were running around and preparing all this. And I had done the contract for between her and the Boston Pops, but then there was nothing else for me to do.
Yeah.
But I was looking at them running around and worrying about what the tickets were going to look like and what the marketing was going to look like and all of that stuff. And I was looking at them and I was like, well, that's what I want to do. You know, I don't, I don't want to just look at the contract. I want to do what you all are doing. And Betty looked at me and said, well, this is artist management. This isn't legal. This isn't entertainment law. If you want to do this, you need to be an artist manager. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I didn't have to spend 3 years and all that money going to law school, because that's kind of what I thought I would be doing as a lawyer. So that's when I started thinking about making the switch, and I did.
Wow. So that was that, did you say that was a while ago, right?
91.
91, yeah, long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Vanessa Rubin was my first.
Oh.
Well, that's not exactly true. I did work with a friend of mine in a little company that we started called One Under the Sun, and we were managing reggae artists.
Oh, cool.
So I cut my teeth on Mikey Dread and Bunny Brissett and people like that for a minute.
Yeah.
But that just wasn't my field. You know, it just wasn't, I didn't enjoy it. I love reggae music, but I didn't know it as well. I wanted to stay in jazz. So in 1990, probably 90, Vanessa Rubin came to me to negotiate as a lawyer, to negotiate her management contract with another manager. And I was looking at the contract and it just seemed burdensome. It seemed onerous. It didn't seem fair. And I told Vanessa that, and she said, oh, well, thank you so much. Why don't you manage me? And I was like, huh? I'm not a manager yet. I don't know how to do that. And she said, oh, you'll learn. So Vanessa Rubin is she's like my first management client, and she trusted me. And we were together for like 8 years or so.
Wow. Isn't that interesting? See, you give off exactly who you are, which is a really very good soul, good core, you know, and you really give that.
Thank you.
That's so interesting. What a great story. What a great life story, you know, that people saw something and they trusted you and you happened to hook up with the right person. And I mean, that's a really great story.
I don't think any of that's by accident, though.
Yeah.
You know, I think people come into your life at a point when you're ready for them to, just as they leave your life when things are no longer right, you know, and I've seen it happen both ways.
Yeah. Yeah, the leaving part is always a little difficult.
It is. It is.
Yeah, in the last, I don't know, let's see, before last year, I had several very, very close friends, you know, music friends, leave my life, and it was kind of all in the same way. So I'm very much into lessons, you know. So I really took note of what the lessons were.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
so I could really, yeah. But yeah, you're right. The leaving is, once you can deal with that and let it go, and see the perspective on that, yeah, you can gain from it and move on, you know, and just it's that, what's that poem? I couldn't quote it, but you know, there's a season people come into your life.
A season, a time to
yeah.
I know
people come in for a reason, or I don't know,
and they leave.
Yeah,
it's very true.
Yeah, that's really cool. Let's see, we have a question. If musicians are looking for managers, what do they need before they approach a manager like you? It's a good question.
Okay. Well, Vanessa Rubin used to say, when she was asked that question, what do you need to do when you need a manager? And Vanessa would say, you have to have something to manage. So, that's a shorthand way of saying, like right now during the pandemic, of course, I'm not even looking to add anybody. And yet someone came along recently who I looked at and I thought, so I'm having conversations
Yeah.
actually with that person. But for me, what I look for is I shorthand it and I call it price. And basically that means P, performing. They need to be performing somewhere. If they're still in school, for example, and they're not really out there just yet, you probably don't even need professional management just yet. The R for price would be recording. It doesn't have to be that you have a record deal. That has become less and less important over the years. But are you doing crowdfunding? Are you doing your own? Do you have the money do you have equipment at home just to have a recording that I could interest people in hearing? Because if you don't have that, they're going to ask me to come back when you do have that. So there's no point in me taking on someone for management if they don't have a recording of some point. The I is innovating. So I love John Coltrane. He's like, it for me. But if all you're going to do is a record and not do something else with it, if you're not going to arrange it, if you're not innovating in a certain way, if you're not using a different kind of instrumentation or whatever, if you're not thinking of a theme for it, then if you're just doing something that somebody else has already done, I don't know how to sell that. I don't know how to say you should get this person because they sound just like that person. Because if that person's still alive, they'll say, well, I'll just get that person. So you have to be innovative in some kind of way. And then the C in price, so I'm at PRI, the C in price is composing. And that is, I like for people on my roster to also be composers, and everybody is. They write their own music. They may do standards, they may do other things, but they need to be able to write some music that expresses who they are individually. And then the E in price, so I'm at PRIC, the E in price is educating. And that's because my theory is that you need to keep jazz going as an art form. That's the mission of my company. And so if you're not interested in doing master classes and residencies and things like that, if you say,
Yes.
I don't want to do that, then it's not work. It doesn't work for me. So if price is there, if those 5 things are there, then we can talk. And of course, the one thing that I don't have written down, but it's really important, is that I have to really like you. And you
Yeah,
have to
that
like
helps.
me. Yeah, because I don't make enough money to do this for somebody I don't like.
Yeah.
This is jazz, and I'm only getting a percentage of what you're earning.
Yeah.
It's worth it to me if I feel like we're marching together to make
Yeah.
it happen.
Yeah.
If we don't like each other, it's not, you're not going to want to march with me, and I'm not going to want to march with you. And then what's the point?
Yeah. Great, great answer. Um, yeah. When you touched on, a subject that a lot of people over the years, students or semi-professionals would come to me and ask me, do I need a manager, and um, well, let's see, what was I was going to say that they're usually they're usually clueless, actually, when people ask me that, because they're not some of those things. And
Yeah.
I mean, performing seems pretty obvious,
Yeah.
and but yeah, and it seems like also on the negative side, it seems like sometimes people will imagine that the manager does it all and that the manager's making a shitload of money too.
Yeah.
So those 2 things I think are,
I wish.
I know, and they're wrong. I remember there was one period of time when I was thinking of managing a friend of mine because he's a brilliant singer and charming, and he needs more people to really know about him. So I talked to a friend of mine who is a longtime manager and successful with 1 or 2 people, and she just said, "Cathy, don't." That's what she said. She said, "Don't, unless you're willing to give it everything, that you have,
Mhm.
and also if he's willing to give it everything he has,
Mhm.
touring and money, and
Mhm.
if he has a family, they're gonna, they're taking a little bit of
Yeah.
a back seat,
Right.
and yeah, that that really thwarted my interest.
I would imagine it's very true. I don't know why anybody would imagine that jazz managers make a ton of money, because jazz artists don't make a ton of money, and I'm getting a percentage of what they're earning. I don't think anybody wants to do this. I think they do it because they're meant to do it. They have to do it, and
Yeah,
that's I know why. That's why I do it.
yeah,
But it's making money, and I'm not allergic to money. I'd love to have more, but that's not my motivation.
yeah,
My motivation is really to try to help artists achieve their best potential, and sometimes it works.
yeah, yeah. You had mentioned when we first came on a woman who you thought would be cool to play one of
Yeah,
your. We could.
Brianna Thomas is
Oh,
one of my newer clients. I've been working with her now for maybe a year and a half. And she just has a new album out, and she wrote a song called How Much Forgiveness, which I don't think there's enough of going around right now. It's
yeah,
just, people need to be kinder to one another. They need to learn how to forgive and ask for forgiveness. And, I think it would just make everybody better. And so I really love that song. Do you have it that you can play it?
I'm going to bring it up.
Oh, beautiful. Okay.
Let's see.
It's on
And
all the streaming platforms. So,
did you want to say anything about her?
well, she has a new album coming out called Everybody Knows, and she's only got two originals on there. The album, I think, is really beautiful. Brianna is someone who hasn't done an album in like 5 years, but she had almost all those things, the P, the R, the I, the C, and the E, when I met with her and started working with her. And so I encouraged her to get this album done, and she did, and it's finished, and it's beautiful.
And how do you spell her name?
Brianna, Brianna Thomas, Thomas. And the song is How Much Forgiveness.
Okay. Well, she's definitely coming up here, and I'm gonna. Oops, I don't want to do that. I want to share my screen, and how much forgiveness? How much for forgiveness? There we go.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. And we should do the recording, not the.
Yes.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't think she's done it. Oh, she did do it at Jazz at Lincoln Center in Doha. Uh, Either one, they're both 6 minutes.
Let's just see if it comes up. Jazz at Lincoln Center.
No, it's right there underneath.
Oh,
you see
this
the
one?
Richard Johnson Quartet. Oh yeah, don't do that one because that's not her
Right.
venue.
That was 7 years ago too.
Yeah,
So
no, do the one up above the first one.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this one.
No. How much forgiveness? Where is that?
Oh, I'm
It
sorry.
came
Let
up
me
when
go
you-
backwards. Here we
There
go.
it is. Mhm.
All right.
Musiversal subscription gives you unlimited
Sorry.
access to every session
Here we
musician
go.
you can
Skip
ever.
ads.
How many hurts can the well of a heart hold? How deep can a hole in your soul go? How far back can you look to find a clue? And tell me how much forgiveness can belong to you? How much forgiveness can belong to you? and tell me how much forgiveness can belong to you. How much forgiveness can belong to you. And oh, don't it do no good to see this fragile heart wearing on my sleeve? Oh, don't you know how long it takes to learn to live with unkind fate? And when life becomes unwritten and we become undone, and the shadows that we cast keep us on the run, when the past hangs on tomorrow, despite how far we've come, great and mighty is the grace we found. Hey, yeah, 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 yeah. How much forgiveness can belong to you? No, don't it do no good to see this fragile heart I'm wearing on my sleeve? And oh, don't you know how long it takes to learn to live with unkind fate? And when life becomes unwritten and we become undone, when the shadows that we cast keep us on the run, when the past hangs on tomorrow, despite how far we've come, great and mighty is the grace we found. Yeah, 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 yeah. How much forgiveness can belong to you? Lady, 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 sugar bone lady, lady, sugar bone lady, lady, sugar bone lady, lady, sugar bone lady, 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 sugar bone lady,
Nice. Yeah, she's cool. that's obviously a song she wrote, right?
Yes, she wrote that, and the album is just now coming out.
Ah,
And we won't even be doing radio promotions until sometime in January. But yes, she did write that, and then she's got a lot of other sort of standards that she is deranged, as we call it.
yes, we like to say things like that. um, and yeah, it really, the song has a lot of good, when you're writing a song or when you're listening to a song, you want to really get the pictures and those ideas. I can't remember, I couldn't quote them, but they're really good right from the beginning. It's
Yeah.
they're really
Yeah, just how much forgiveness. I mean,
yeah,
if something has happened to you, if you
yeah,
don't forgive, it keeps happening
yeah,
to you.
yeah,
So at some point you have to forgive things just so you can move on.
yeah. Really nice. Now, let me ask you a question. This is interesting because now, your definition of jazz, do you define her as a jazz singer, or is it, what style would you define this music as?
Well, that particular album has elements of blues in it, has elements of R&B, has elements of jazz,
Yeah.
but I would define her as a jazz vocalist. Winton uses her quite a bit. She teaches at Jazz at Lincoln Center, and she was with the Ever Funky Lowdown that he did, and she's done other jazz projects with him. And that's when you hear more of the what you would call traditional jazz voice.
Right.
But in this album, she wanted to show the range of songs that she does, and so there's elements of blues, jazz, gospel, especially that one that's almost tinging on gospel a little bit.
Mhm.
But she's got a beautiful range, and the people on the album are Conan Pappas and Ryan Berg and Marvin Sewell and Kyle Poole. They're jazz musicians, but they all, were able to show another side of themselves with this
Yeah.
album. And I think
Yeah.
it's going to be great.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the idea, the style, the category or the box of style, that's such a big it's a big subject that has, plagued people for years,
Sure.
gosh, in so many different ways, right?
That's right. No, I do. I consider her jazz, and she's done 2 sold-out nights at the Appel Room at Lincoln Center, and
Oh.
she's done Dizzy's 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, Steve Miller, Fly Like an Eagle, Steve
Yeah.
Miller is one of her mentors,
Oh,
and brings her on Rose Hall with him
oh,
practically every year that he's there, because he's there at Rose Hall at least once a year, and Brianna is always his special guest.
wow.
So,
Nice.
she has a range.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. And I think over the years that's gotten more and more accepted, kind of, if you know what I mean. Like, remember when Eva Cassidy was, the talk of everybody because nobody knew where to put her. And she died a tragic death, and they
Yeah.
didn't know where to put her. And
Right, I remember that now.
yeah,
Yes.
and
I remember, I think I saw her down at Blues Alley or something.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember her now.
she
Yeah.
was a very varied artist, and she
Mhm.
was fine with it. And
Yeah.
it was the business people who were having problems with it. But
Well,
but
that's
then
like when artists ask me, well, what do you think I should be doing next? I always say, I have absolutely no idea. What's in your heart? Like, what is it you're trying to get out? And if you can do it in this context, and I feel like I can help you, let's do it. But I've also said to some other artists, what you're trying to do now, I don't think I'm the best manager for you, because
yeah,
that's a 1 or 2 steps just a little too far. And I don't know what to do with that music. And I don't think it would be fair for me to try to manage you if that's the direction you want to go in. I'm not going to discourage you from going in that direction. But what's in your heart? What are you trying to say to the world and to me and to yourself? And like when you sit down to play music, who is that audience?
Yeah.
And if it's an audience I know anything about, then maybe, oh, now Brianna's calling me back. I was trying to text her to
Hi,
say,
Brianna.
it's
Hi.
too late now. We just played your thing, but I gotta go. I'll talk to you later. I was trying to let her hear it when it was on, but she just got back. But anyway, that's what there are different managers and different reasons. And there are some managers who have a preconceived notion
Yeah.
of what they want you to do as
Yeah.
an artist. And there are some artists who want that.
Yes.
They want somebody to tell them what they should be doing, when you should do your next album, who you should be playing with. And I'd like to think that I'm just one of the advisors to the artist. I want them to tell me where they want to go, and then I want to try to get them there. That's how I see my job, not the other way around. I don't have a preconceived notion about where I want Brianna to go. I want her to tell me, and then let me see if I can help her get there.
Yeah, that's what I would do too. Yeah, I just had a long conversation with somebody about producing him. And I was just saying, here's what I see in you, but whatever way you want to go, let's talk about that. I don't want to create you and mold you and stuff. I just want to see what's there and tell you what I see. And then you can, it's kind of a give and take. And that's a really nice thing too. Yeah. Because I hate, oh God, as a singing teacher, I've had producers bring people to me and, this one guy brought this guy and he wanted him to be an R&B singer and he wasn't. He was an amateur, but he was not an R&B singer. There, no way. That was going to take either a lifetime or never. He was a country singer and he was really good at it, and I just told the producer, I said, I'm really sorry, but this guy is a country singer. Why don't you take that and make that something,
Yeah. Well, the guy had to know also what he was.
Yeah.
It really would have to start with him. Yeah. And that says to me that he wasn't clear himself.
No. Oh no, he was an amateur.
He wouldn't let a producer try to put him in a box that he didn't feel comfortable in. That's never a good idea. Yeah. They got to stand on their own 2 feet and say, this is where I'm going. And, you learn that from people like Betty Carter, who said, this is the direction I'm going. And you can get on this road and ride with me, but don't try to take me off that road. This is where I'm going. This is what I want to do. And if you can help me get there, then that's what you do. And that's kind of how I see management. And there are people like John Clayton, who has a very clear idea of what he wants to do, where he wants to go. And 26 years later, we're still trying to get there. He's got more ideas.
That's great. John is such a dear heart. And a quality person, musician and everything.
And he really is who he presents himself to be. Yeah. Like that's really who he is. Yeah. No pretense there.
Yeah. I was going to say too, that when an artist, it's kind of like, also just reminded me as an artist, like I compose. And so I know my first husband was an artist and he used to get into these jags of like 4 days of painting in red, and then that was it. He moved on. And I found that my writing was like that too. I would write in a kind of a genre, because I'm a child of the 70s and 60s, and I was in Boston, at college in the early 70s, and there was a lot of music, right? A lot of different styles, and so all of that is in me. And sometimes I sound like Joni Mitchell, and so I'll get into these writing jags that I'll get like real folky for 3 songs,
Right.
And I've learned a long time ago in composing, you don't stop yourself. You don't say, no, that's not jazzy enough. You don't do that, because then you won't write for 3 years.
That's right.
You just write and then move on to the next song, and just whatever comes out. So that's part of it too, right? As the artist, because the artist, like Brianna, I'm sure that was one song she wrote, and then there's going to be other songs that there already has been other songs that she wrote, and maybe they're more jazz or whatever, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. The other one on the album is more jazz,
Oh yeah.
but it has a very Latin flair to it. So,
Oh yeah.
it's an interesting album because almost each song feels a little bit different, but that's also the theme
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Dina DeRose is here, by the
Tell her
way.
hello.
She said a question, what is the most important aspect of a musician that makes you want to work with them?
Probably that they do know where they're trying to go. If they come to me and say, I'm brand new, I don't know anything about this business, and I need for you to help me get there, I'll say, where's there? Because
Yeah.
there is very different for different artists. So an artist who really knows exactly kind of the direction they want to take, and if I feel I can help them get there, then that's the beginning of the conversation. But they do have to have an idea in their minds. And it doesn't have to be one that everybody is adopted. It could be something that's completely off base. But if they're really clear on that,
Yeah.
then and if I think I can help them,
Yeah.
then that's the beginning of the conversation. That's not the end, but that's enough for us to have a talk. Then I go through the price equation. And then,
PRICE.
yeah, and then I try to see if we like each other.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, is there, I don't know if this is too weird a question, but is there one of your artists over the years that had like a more unusual there?
That made me want to work with them?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. There's only one artist that I've managed over the course of 27 years that I still don't have, and I won't mention that person's name, but I still don't have like a really great relationship with, because almost everybody that I worked with, we're still friends. Even if they let me go or I let them go, we're still friends.
Yeah.
And so, but that particular person that I'm talking about, there was there. I mean, like I just was so excited about this person. But sometimes people get in their own way, and sometimes you think you can help when you really can't. And that's heartbreaking, really, because it was genuine.
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I saw was genuine, and
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if they realize it now.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of heartbreaking, because you kind of put everything that you know how to do into a person, and the person is not able to see it themselves.
Yeah.
And so it becomes heartbreaking when you see that there's a there and you can't do anything with it. And that only has happened one time. I mean, usually, and I've managed a lot of people over the years, and I managed Monty Alexander like twice. He fired me twice.
Interesting. Oh
And
my
then
God.
he came back a third time, and then we decided, you know what, we are just so much better as really good friends. So he loves me, I love him. He calls me his sister, I call him my brother.
Oh.
I love him to pieces. But I could not be his manager. And he was, he knew that, I knew that. And so now we're just really close friends.
That's cool. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, because, of course, that experience translates over into relationships, just
Yes.
relationships in general, or teaching, or family, or that is a real experience that I think we all have experienced. And like so many philosophers say, it's not really about the experience, it's how you handle it.
That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It almost becomes like the artist is part of your family.
Yeah.
Like I've heard some artists say, well, I don't need another fan. I don't need a fan that I'm paying a percentage to. It's not that. It's just that I think management is the closest you can get to a marriage without it being an actual marriage.
Yeah.
And that is
Yeah.
you have to both realize that you're heading toward the same goal. And not every day is going to be rosy.
Yeah.
know. And I put something on Facebook today about my husband who takes my earplugs and he wraps them up a certain kind of way every single day. So I wake up in the morning, I'm looking for my earplugs, and he has wrapped them up and put them away. And we've been going back and forth with that for almost 30 years.
Right.
And it's not going to change.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I mean about management. There's certain things that I may do, or the artist may do, but you have to know you're in it for the long haul, because you
Yeah.
may get mad about that one thing,
Yeah.
but you have to know that you're in it through that
Yeah.
until you can achieve what it is you're trying to do. So
Yeah.
when I say family, that's what I mean. I don't mean that I'm just going to be the biggest. I am the biggest fan of all my clients. I really am, because I don't know how I could do it otherwise.
Yeah.
But it's more than that. They become part of you, and you become part of them, to the point where you know you have a goal and you're both working toward the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's really well put. Let's see. I had another question back here. I didn't want to pass it up. Let's see. Where are you, Mark? Maybe it disappeared. Things disappear off Facebook.
Do they really?
Oh, here we go. This guy Mark, he markets his jazz music as a health product, where it's been played in a hospital for women going through monograms, and he likes to help more people. And do you have any advice on growing my music to help people? Interesting question.
Well, jazz is healing. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Music is healing. And so, no, I don't have any particular advice for him, but I do know that there is a woman, and I can't think of her name right now, but she has made a living working in nursing homes. Like, she doesn't even try to get gigs at night anymore, because it's very fulfilling for her.
Yeah.
But also, she's making about as much money as most jazz musicians are, and she doesn't have to leave home. I mean, she doesn't have to leave her community. So
yeah.
I'll try to remember her name, because I know it, but it's not coming right now.
Yeah.
And I'll put it on your Facebook, so that maybe I can put the two of them together.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
She can talk about how she did that, because almost her whole work is involved in nursing homes and health facilities, and music really does heal. The violinist, I'm trying to remember his name. He passed away young. I can't think of his name right now. But his mother was on a board with me in Brooklyn, and she used to talk about how music helped mental illness even.
Yeah.
If you played it at certain ranges and decibels and all that. She had like a scientific approach to it, and it helped cool and soothe a lot of mental patients sometimes. And so I applaud him for what he's doing, and I think it's great when people want to use their skills and talents to help people, because that's really, at the end of the day, that's what it's about.
Yeah, it's really nice. I have a friend in England who does that too. She kind of most of what she does is for people who are dying, and but she involves them. She gets them performing with her and in choirs, and and she's done it for a long time, and she's very successful at it and recognized for it, and it's great. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Did you see it was something that went viral a couple of days ago about this ballerina with dementia?
No.
But they played Swan Lake for her, and her muscle memory did the whole dance.
Oh my God.
Seated. It was so beautiful.
Wow.
You have to look it up. It went viral for a while. I'm sure now millions of people have seen it, but
wow.
Literally she was listening to it, and as she was listening, you could see her hands start to come up. And she did the choreography. She did all of the hand choreography. It was so beautiful.
That's amazing. There's, Zipper Hall, right? In LA.
Where is that part of
Colburn?
UNC? Yeah, Colburn, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Zipper, I can't remember the whole story, all the details, but Zipper was an unbelievable man. He was in the German camps, Jewish man. He was, and he, I mean, it's a long story. You guys need to look up Zipper because his story is amazing, and I won't go into the whole story, but this part. So while he was in the camps, he got the prisoners to make instruments out of anything that they could find.
Wow.
And, like anything, right? And then they would meet in the back somewhere secretly, and he taught them he was a classical musician, and he taught them a classical concerto, and they would play that. They learned it and they played it with these all kinds of makeshift instruments.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, isn't that
sad, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, his story is really amazing. I mean, once he got out of there, he went to Asia, and then he got put into the Japanese camps.
Oh my God.
And then he got out. He really, it's really an amazing story.
I will read it. That sounds really fascinating.
Yeah. Let's see. Hi, Terry Roiger.
Oh, tell Terry I said hi.
I always say Roiger. I think it's Roiger.
He just did one of my alternative venue sessions.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's great. Let's definitely talk about that. And thanks, Tessa Soder.
She's going to do one.
Oh, good. Well, she's actually showing the YouTube about the ballerina.
Oh, good. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. We were talking just right before we came on, and I had seen one of the last ones with Andy, you said?
Yeah, Andy Rothman.
Yeah, and I could totally relate because I've been doing things like that forever here, and so yeah, it's just I think very highly of all that. So let's just talk about what you started in April, and what was the intent that you had?
Well, I started Alternative Venues for Jazz in January of 2017, so it'll be 4 years old. And I started the website for a couple of reasons. Not the website, the Facebook page, for a couple of reasons. And one is that the average salary of jazz musicians is in the neighborhood of $21,000. I don't know if it's average or the median salary, because obviously there are musicians who earn a lot more, and there are an awful lot of musicians who earn a lot less. Oh. So I did a panel for Jazz Congress called Alternative Venues for Jazz, and I had presenters of different venues that were not the typical jazz club and jazz festival.
Yeah.
So, and what we talked about were how musicians could help each other get to places that they had not thought about before. So at first, for 4 years, I had people say, well, this is where I've worked before, but I would shut it down if they advertised themselves being someplace, because that wasn't the place for it. The place was really to have dialogue between jazz musicians saying where would be a good place to play, and do you know this? And so that's all it was until the pandemic hit. And one day I was just in bed feeling, like what's gonna happen now? And it dawned on me that my Facebook page was the ultimate alternative venue, that people could stream their performances and put tip jars up. They could do whatever they needed to do because nobody was working. And so I started that, and that was in March, when I just took off all the restrictions. I'm like, whatever you're doing, advertise it on here, because right now nobody's working. And then about a month later, it dawned on me, I would like to have musicians be able to talk to each other about how they're coping through this pandemic, and what are their projects, and how can we buy them, and what can we do to support each other. And so I've gone from 1,500 members of Alternative Venues for Jazz to now 5,000 and growing.
Cool.
And I'm so happy about that. And so every day, Monday through Friday, I have an artist come on and they basically just tell their stories. So whatever it is that you are doing, I just want you to talk about it. I give some suggestions, but then the last suggestion is just talk about whatever you want to. So Monty Alexander, for example, came on. He came on the week after the George Floyd murder.
Oh.
And he started his 30 minutes by playing A Change Is Gonna Come by Sam Cooke and playing piano to that. And then at some point during his 30 minutes, he also played Bob Marley's Redemption Song. And then he just talked about, that kind of thing. And so each artist has come on, and every day it's different. And I love it. I have not missed one. I'm there, typing in comments, and I love it. And so obviously the artists do too, because I'm almost booked through February already.
Wow, that's really amazing. And me, I want to become a member and talk too.
Okay, please do.
Yeah, and it's I've seen a few of them, and at first I wasn't sure what it was actually.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be an interview. It wasn't an interview. And the first guy I saw was really cool. I totally forget his name, but he was a composer. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about this project that he was doing that seemed really interesting. Mm-hmm. And anyway, that's so cool that you did that and that you thought.
We just have to help each other, because
we do.
Jazz musicians are just way too important to make as little money as they actually do.
I agree.
And so we have to figure out a way, and then we got clients, artists used to doing their CDs and going out on the road and selling their CDs on the road, and not getting any streaming income. I mean, they get the streaming income if they get enough, hits, but no jazz musician really is.
Right.
And so, you have to have almost 1 million streams to make a couple $1,000s. Nobody's getting 1 million streams. And I see sometimes on Facebook pages where the jazz artists are saying, woohoo, I just got 40,000 streams. And that's not enough money for them. That's not even equivalent to what you would sell one CD for in venues.
Right.
So I wanted to have the alternative venues for jazz, but I also want to figure out how to make the whole streaming royalty a little more fair to musicians, because it's really weighed very heavily against the artists who make the music and very much in favor of record companies, all of whom have an actual ownership stake in a lot of the streaming companies. So they're making their money 2 and 3 ways over, and the artist is not getting paid what the artist should get. And I want to change that. That'll be my last thing I do before I retire. Yeah,
I was going to say, I mean, the word how is on my lips, but I mean, have you considered how? And just, it's a long research road, or?
Yeah, I've got all the questions. I don't have any of the answers yet, but this year in January, I became president of the North American Performing Arts Managers and Agents.
Oh.
And that's a good organization to start asking the questions. And we just reinvigorated the advocacy committee. And on there, I've got a couple of people who are going to be looking at streaming for sure and trying to come up with best practices and templates. And then the goal will then be, how do I get to the right people to make a change in that? Because there are certain little things that could be done almost right away. If Spotify would put a tip jar there, because that's something they did to talk about doing. But if everybody who, say you do get only 40,000 streams, but if all 40,000 of those people put $1 in the tip jar, you'd have $40,000.
Yeah.
That's better than what you're getting now.
Sure.
So there are little incremental changes that I think if we can gather enough people with that same thing in mind, and then talk to some of these streaming companies, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea for them to think about doing that. Even if they wanted to take a percentage, which I don't think they should, because they're making enough money on the other side.
Yeah.
But somehow we got to think about how artists are getting paid. And, it's not even about managers at that point, because 15% of you getting nothing is nothing. It's just about you getting something for your work product.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. That's, great idea. I've never heard of that idea, and that sounds great. Yeah. What about just curious, what about CDs? What do you think? What do you think the present and the future of CDs life is with CDs?
I think it's like the question when I started managing artists and we were still doing LPs. You remember those?
I do. I
And we were
remember.
doing LPs and then CDs. And I remember feeling
And
like,
tapes.
oh God, and
Just putting
tapes.
that in there.
But I just remember saying, oh my God, you're not going to have LPs anymore, because you remember the light boxes at Tower Records and all that. You would go up the escalator and you'd see these light boxes that
Yeah.
would be the LP covers. And so I was thinking to myself, well, what's going to be in the light boxes now? Well, now I feel like that about CDs, because now, like this new computer that I just bought doesn't even have a CD player.
I
It's
know.
nothing to
Or
play.
and cars.
No,
I
and
don't
in
even get
cars.
that. I don't get that. I don't see what the benefit was to remove CD players out of cars. I just
I don't
don't.
know either, but I guess they figure you can go to Spotify on these services now. But so I do think CDs are going out.
Yeah.
I do think that everything's going to be digital at some point very, very soon. And I know a lot of artists are hating that, because we would print up 1,000, hoping to sell them on gigs, and now they haven't worked in a year. But I think that this year is the year that's going to make CDs even more obsolete.
Yeah. Well,
Because they're
even
going to be streamed.
even because I go to the DJ, their jazz DJ convention too. And I mean, they were, even the last time I went, which might have been a year ago, they were talking about how they were trying to lean away from CDs still, but in Europe they had long ago gone to digital, and but that here they were probably about to change over. And yeah, as the artist, I mean, poor Jewish girl from Boston, I always bought 1,000 CDs because I just couldn't take 900 was almost you paid, just as much for 1,000, and
That's
so
right.
but the other thing for me personally is that I go to Japan. Well, I mean, I am going back to Japan, but I go to Japan. I've been going for years, and when I go to Japan, I sell 50 to 100 CDs.
There you go.
Yeah. So as long as that's still happening, I'd like to keep CDs, but I'm never going to buy 1,000 again. It's just
No.
not going to happen.
No.
Maybe I'll go down to 500,
And
because
if the radio stations that you're trying to service, if they would all go digital, and the same thing for the press, then you wouldn't have to print up any at all.
yeah.
My little grandbaby has been trying to call me every
Oh,
week.
okay. I'm going to look a little bit.
She went off.
Oh, okay. There was a bunch of people talking. So let's see. I'm just going to see if there's any question. Dean is a member, she said. I guess
Yeah.
Tessa. Yeah. And thanks, Tessa, for your information. Oh, okay. Yep. Tessa posted where your Facebook is.
Good, thank you.
Joyce Glasgow.
Oh, I love her.
I do too. She's so interested.
Yeah, and interesting.
Yeah, she's really cool.
She shares almost everything we do on alternative venues. She shares it to 5 or 6 places. I love her.
Me too. She's extremely supportive. She said the predatory record execs have just moved their predation, I've never used that word, over to the digital platform online. Yes,
Yeah.
please change that.
Yeah, trying.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Tessa was saying that the tip jar idea is good. And she said, I guess you could do that on your account, maybe?
On what? Which
Oh, on
account?
your account. Oh, yeah. Like on Spotify, you're saying? Yes.
Yes,
That's
yes.
what it would be.
They had said they were going to do something like that. I don't know if they have, but that would be really helpful. I mean, so
Yeah.
even if you had 5,000 streams, if people were so inclined, they could put a little money there. It'd be great for the artist.
Yeah.
And no skin off of Spotify because they're not making any money on you guys anyway.
Yeah. And then I'm not sure, Mark, I understand your question. Let's see. Do you think the reason your clients do not like digital because they don't understand how digital works because you have to deal with search engine optimization marketing?
No, I don't think that's why they don't like digital. I mean,
Yeah.
because search engine optimization is important and we can get marketing people to help us do that.
Yeah.
They're just slow to change, just like I was when it went from LPs to CDs only. I was fighting that, and now I'll be fighting, CDs to digital, but it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And then once you realize it's inevitable, you get the team you need to help optimize it. So
Yeah.
that's not why I think we're just slow to change.
Yeah. Before, sometimes my head is too full, Gail. I've done so many different things, and I've basically been my own manager for years, right? Like a lot of us have. This is a question that always needs attention, especially now, especially if you're putting things out, which I'm actually today I'm releasing a single. So
Nice.
I'll have to share that with you. It's
Okay.
yeah, it's my second single that I've released in the last few months. And I wanted to try it out and see how it felt. And and I've been enjoying it because I've also been making these iMovies, which I really am enjoying, because I can really get the message across in a very strong way, But talking about what is it called? Data, metadata.
Metadata, yeah.
So now it used to me, in my experiences, it used to be that metadata wasn't. It was kind of the forgotten child, it was like some engineer would mention it occasionally, but sometimes you didn't have it, and so, but metadata is, do you know about meta? It's important to have, right?
If you go on Bloomingdale's website and you look at a blouse,
yes,
and even if you don't buy the blouse, and even if you don't put the blouse in the shopping cart, and then you go to Facebook, guess what shows up? That blouse.
Oh, I've seen that before.
That's what metadata actually is. I mean, it's tracking you and your preferences, even when you're not excuse me, even when you're not aware that that's what's going on. And there's a great Netflix documentary. I think it's Netflix, and I cannot remember. I hope your audience will remember what it is. But it just came out not too long ago, and it just talked about how you're being tracked, how your preferences are being tracked to the point that they even know how to anticipate what you'd be interested in. And so that's what will show up on your Facebook page when you go to Twitter. You're going to see certain kinds of ads, and there are others that you will never see because they've already determined you're not interested in that. And that's scary, actually. So I think that's not why I think a lot of artists don't like it, because I think a lot of artists don't even understand it yet.
But what does that have to do with? I understood metadata to be like listing all the detail, all your musicians, so that the musicians could get paid if they're played on whatever digital platform actually pays.
I don't know that feels like a different. Ask your audience, because that feels like I understand what you're saying in terms of when you're mastering and what you're actually putting in there and how you keep track of it. But what I'm talking about is what I just mentioned, but it might be a different name.
Okay.
So ask your audience.
Okay, so if anybody knows,
because Mark sounds like he might be on top of that kind of stuff. Ask him what you're talking about versus what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's the
Okay.
metadata that I'm talking about is just that,
Yes.
like presuming what you would be interested in because of your history online already,
Yeah.
which is, I think, very dangerous.
Yeah. And so much of what's going on now is fear about that. You know, I won't
Yeah.
go into the whole thing, but yeah, there's a lot of fear about that, you know.
Should be. Yeah, should be.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've been seeing some wild videos, as I'm sure everybody has.
Oh, yeah.
So what is your idea of what's happening now, and what you're? I mean, you already spoke of not really accepting new clients, but what do you have a feeling about? You know, when people are going to go out again, and or any hopes or?
Yeah, I was just on the right before I came to you. I think I told you I had
Yeah.
another Zoom call, and that Zoom call was with the Western Jazz Presenters organization. All of the, Tim Jackson and all
Yeah.
of the people up and down the West Coast who present, and that's what they had me on to talk about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had me on to talk about streaming and what should be in contracts. But they also wanted to know what my feeling was about when things would get back to normal.
Yeah.
I think that normal is gone.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a new normal, and I think that streaming and pre-recorded concerts are going to be very much a part of that now. And I think it's going to be scaled differently so that you will have to work longer and harder to make the same amount of money that you were making before until we right the ship somehow. And I'm not sure how we'll do that. I do think that live performances are probably not going to be back in any significant way until summer of 2021 and probably fall. I have had some dates that have been pushed all the way to March of 2022. And I do think that will happen.
Yeah.
But everything else I think is up in the air in terms of whether it will happen or not, because we had such an abysmal response to this pandemic in this country in particular, that I think we have to find a way out of it first, because before you can seriously talk about a tour. Even if things were to open up, I've got a lot of clients who are not comfortable right now getting on planes.
Yeah.
So even if it were to open up for, spring of 2021, I can imagine that there are some clients who are going to say, I'm not interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not going.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I feel I get that too. Yeah, from various people. I personally don't feel personally about my going outside or being involved. I don't feel that dangerous. But a lot of my friends, no, they're not coming out of their house at all.
Yeah.
So I understand that. You know what I haven't seen a lot of, and I'm surprised, is holograms.
Mm.
Have you seen any use of that?
I wouldn't be that interested in a hologram. I mean,
Really?
I love live performance. I want to see.
Well, of course, but I'm just saying.
You mean going forward? I wouldn't.
Or right now.
I personally wouldn't be that interested.
Yeah.
I would almost be more interested in a pre-recorded concert or streaming from a remote location than I would if somebody were to do a hologram of somebody singing or performing.
Yeah.
That wouldn't do it for me. That wouldn't feed my spirit, which is what live music does for me. It literally feeds me.
Yeah.
And so we've got a lot of really hungry people out here who are longing to get artists back out here because of the important work that they do. They don't just work for themselves and feed their own spirits. They feed other people as well with their artistry. And that's what I miss.
Yeah. Yeah.
A hologram wouldn't do that for me. It would just feel weird.
I saw an amazing video of these kids in a gym, in their school gym, like high school students. And there was a hologram on the gym floor of a whale coming out of the water.
Wow.
And it was so big.
That would be exciting.
Huge. Yeah.
That would be exciting. I'd prefer to see something like that than I would a musician.
Yeah.
But the idea of something like coming to life like that would be exciting. I'd love to do that with my grandchildren.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and the kids were like totally blown away, of course.
Sure.
What do you say that we listen to one of your other artists? Just you know, do you want to pick somebody?
How about let's do Lakeisha Benjamin.
Okay, let's see. Let me get. Is this it? Yeah. Let's see.
Lakecia. And
yes.
Let's do Liberia, if that comes up.
Oh, she looks cool.
She is very cool.
Liberia.
You see Liberia over there on the right? There you go. We're featuring Gary Bartz. Let's do that one.
Okay.
Treat yourself to a Black Friday deal.
Black Friday. Okay. Wow. I bet a bunch of people listening are buying that. Wow. That was fantastic.
It's
Wow.
really beautiful.
Damn. How old is she? She looks very young.
She is young, but she's got an old spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Gary Bartz, I mean, he just turned 80 this year, and the two of them together, it's just fire.
Oh my God.
It was beautiful.
Wow. Yeah, that's really great. Yeah. I really want to hear more of that.
That was the whole theme. What she decided to do was have 3 different age groups work on Alice Coltrane and John Coltrane's music. And over the course of 2 days, she had a group of people between the age of 70 and 90.
Yeah.
Then she had 50 to 70, and then 30 to 50. Huh. And they all would come together, and it was like a great big party for 2 days, and she had different people playing. And
what a great idea.
It was such a great idea. She had Dee Dee Bridgewater, Jasmine Horn, Gary Bartz. Reggie Workman actually co-produced it, who played with both Alice and John Coltrane. He co-produced
cool.
It was very, very cool.
Wow.
Beautiful album.
Man, that is really nice.
Yes.
Let's see. There we had some questions, of course, and comments. Lots of comments. You. I'm sure I'll send you this, but you can look on Facebook too. But
okay, beautiful.
Let's see. I never met a dada I didn't like. That's cute. Okay. Let's see. Joy said, I posted your new, she posted, sorry. She posted my new single around already. Thank you, Joyce.
Nice. Yes, see what I mean? Joyce is like she's #1 fan.
She's wonderful. Let's see. There was something that I saw. Sorry. Oh, Dina DeRose. Yeah, I thought this was a good question here. Was there ever a time that you thought you'd stop managing?
I never, ever thought about stop managing until this pandemic. I used to always tell people I was going to die with my boots on. I love what I do.
Yeah.
And I never saw an opportunity when I wouldn't want to do it. This pandemic has made me say, if my clients are not going to start working again until 2022, that's the year I'm going to be 75 years old. And do I really want to try to gear back up again? Right now, the answer is yes. But at least I allowed myself to think about not doing this. And that's a weird feeling, because I always said, nope, I'm going to do this like until the very day of my last breath, I'll be managing artists. Right now, I'm still there, but I let a little doubt creep in saying, do you want to start all over in 2022? Right now, the answer is yes, I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's healthy, actually.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, really, one thing I think that we've learned from this, a lot of us better than others, is to let go and to experience whatever is here now, because it's so unusual and surreal, that there's no way we can think it through and control it,
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you overall been calm about what's going on?
Yeah, I have been. I kind of think I'm a spiritual person anyway.
Yeah.
And I just stay inside. As one of my husband's friends said to him, the good news about the virus is that it can't come through the window. So if you stand in the house, you're relatively safe. I've gone out to buy groceries and pretty much that's it since March. My office is in New York and I haven't been there since January when I was there for APAP. I work from, this is my home office and that's what I've been doing. I miss New York. I miss the energy of it. I've heard it's a little bit different. And I want to see what that's even like, but I'm not going to go out right now. I mean, like I said, I'm 73. I'm not messing around. You know, I know what I've got relatives in the hospital right now fighting COVID.
Oh.
And there have been 2 family members already who have passed away with it. So it's not playing around and I'm not playing with it.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see.
But I hear he's doing better. The one who's in the hospital, I just heard today that they didn't have to put him on a ventilator and he is doing better. So
that's good.
I'm happy about that because I've been really worried.
Yeah. I had several friends get it. One didn't go to the doctor or the hospital at all, but she's like a hiker and she lives near the beach and she hiked every day and sat for a few hours and just breathed in the oxygen and, you know, was immersed in that nature. And
there's something about vitamin D too, though, and that might be what she was getting naturally.
Yes.
That does kind of help, they say. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be near it if I can help it.
Yes, exactly. There's compliments on how you look. I love it.
Being 73.
Yeah. You're what? And you look 55. There's a comment.
Oh, wow. I'll take that.
Yeah. She's really
I've got
beautiful.
shoes that are 55 years old.
Well, it's just, I mean, you are a beautiful woman but also it's not just on the outside. It's very obvious right away. As I said, when I met you, I was like, who's that? I didn't know who you were because I had never seen any PR with you. And I just thought, who's that? I want to know her. She's really, wow. She's got great energy and beautiful, you know?
Thank you so much.
Gosh, I really hope, I'm sure it's not going to happen this January, but I'm waiting for the Jazz Congress. That is just,
I know.
God, such a great
APAP is going to be completely virtual this year.
Oh, you think it's actually working? Going to actually be?
They're going to have an APAP, but it's going to be virtual.
Oh, APAP and virtual. Interesting.
So I don't know about Jazz Congress or Winter Jazz Fest. I think Winter Jazz Fest is going to be virtual, but I don't know about Jazz Congress, what they're going to do. But if they do anything, it'll be virtual. Nobody's going to do in person this year.
Well, it'll be half good like that.
Right,
really, the other half is hanging with people.
I know.
Oh my God. It's just like the old IAJE. When I first came, I was like, oh my God, this is like the old IAJE, which I just absolutely adored.
I used to love it. I was at the last one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was at the first gen, which kind of
replaced me too, I think.
In St. Louis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, you got that hang too, and it's very geared towards education, which is cool because I'm big in that field too. So so that was cool. But the Jazz Congress, that really hit it for me.
Jazz Congress and APAP for me. Those are 2 of my favorite times. You get to see everybody and get a hug and stuff.
A hug. I remember that.
I know.
So many people thanking us and stuff for this conversation. This has been a really beautiful conversation. I've really enjoyed speaking with you. It kind of reminds me, this is kind of far away, but I'll just say it. My first husband was very spiritual. He was Mexican American, and I was always spiritual, but he introduced me.
Was he the painter who would do red?
Okay. Yes, he was. And he just introduced me to ideas that I hadn't ever thought about, but I was I was really ready to go, Yeah. As a matter of fact, sometime I'll tell you the story of when I met him. You'll laugh. But I met him, and a month later we were married.
Uh-huh.
So I was 26, and he was, let's see, he was something like 11 years older than me. But anyway, so he, uh-oh, am I going to remember this story? Oh no! I was
See, that's what happens.
too much. Oh my God! Oh, we were talking about how you appeared, right? Or is that? Oh darn!
You're asking me to remember your story. I don't know. I have a hard time remembering my own.
Come on, man! Oh shoot! Well, okay. I'm not even gonna worry
You
about
won't
it.
even try it.
Yeah, it was so good. No. Yeah, I don't know what it was, but anyway, but this has been really fun, and this is I have lots of archives if you're ever interested, and John actually was one of my guests.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. That's great. I'll take a look. Well, I have to get ready to do my alternative venues for jazz at 5 o'clock. I hope you will tune in to that.
Absolutely.
I have Dan Ouellette today, who is a writer, a jazz journalist for many years, and a good friend of mine. And so he'll be talking about his journey in jazz.
And people find it on Facebook, at your Facebook, right?
And it's Alternative Venues for Jazz. And I hope that all your listeners will join the page and take a listen to Dan Ouellette. And I've got a younger saxophonist tomorrow by the name of Mike Casey. Mm-hmm. And then Wednesday and Thursday, I'm going to do some oldies but goodies. I think I'll bring Diane Reeves' tape back, and then maybe Renee Marie. And then Friday, I have Sheila Jordan.
Oh, say hi for me.
I will. I will for sure.
Yeah, well, I'll let you go, and I'm going to keep connected with the audience. So I wanted to tell a few things to the audience. But thank you, Gail. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Lovely. It's been fun. This is the longest that anybody has ever been able to get me to stay on screen. I'm actually very shy. So you did it. You did it.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And what did I wanted to tell you actually that today is one of those days that in just 2.5 hours, I'm going to do another interview. And I'm doing it with Leroy Downs, who, especially you people in LA, but there's a lot of people who also know Leroy. He is a jazz spokesperson and DJ, and he's got great taste. And he's also a curator of different situations. And as a matter of fact, he curated a great series that has lasted for a year or two. I can't remember if it's 2, but at a photo gallery that's kind of a famous photo gallery called Mr. Music Head. And inside the gallery are photos by a lot of actually big name rock and roll artists and jazz artists. Or there are photos about things like Woodstock or musical artists. It's really a wonderful gallery. And Leroy and Sam, the owner of the gallery, and Frederick Smith created this really great series, and I've sung in it. And yeah, it's just great. A lot of really great people have performed there. It's really nice. So that's at 4:30 today, which is in about 2.5 hours. I would love it if you came back. You won't regret it. Leroy is really interesting. He's done so much. He has great taste, and he's just a really lovely person. And I wanted to tell you who's on the rest of the week as well. Tomorrow, I am really honored to have Melba Joyce on. Now, maybe you haven't heard of Melba Joyce, and maybe you have. If you're somebody like me who goes back, a ways, you know her name. She's kind of a stateswoman of jazz. And she was married to Bobby Bradford, the great musician, and she's the mother of the great singer Carmen Bradford. And her history is really impressive. She has really been an activist, and she's a great singer, and she's beautiful. And so she's on tomorrow, Melba Joyce. Then the next day, especially for you singers and pianists, Mike Renzi, who is he has been the accompanist for Mel Torme and several people like that. As I said, my mind is not working, but but anyway, he's like the accompanist who has been, the guy that people have picked for years and years. And he has great stories. He's extremely entertaining. So that's Wednesday. And then I'm off till Monday. And Monday, and by the way, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a really great Thanksgiving. Monday, a wonderful pianist, really interesting. Brian Pizzone. Sorry, Brian Pizzone. Tuesday, December 1st. That is Stephanie Nikazian, who's a great swinging singer and happens to be the mother of Veronica Swift. And that is why Veronica was born singing, because of Stephanie and her father, Hod O'Brien, who was a great bebop pianist. And then Tuesday, I'm really thrilled to have a Brazilian pianist on from Brazil, in Brazil. Benjamin, his name is interesting. Benjamin Tobkin. He's an older guy, and he's really well known in Brazil, and a really fantastic player. So I'm really excited about speaking with him. And today is, what's going on with Mr. Music Head now? I'm not even sure if they're open, to tell you the truth. Today, my second single has arrived. So please go listen to it. It'll be on Facebook. And it's actually on my music page, but I'm going to shift it over to this page as well. And enjoy it. It should be in Spotify probably in a few days, because there were some technical issues. But it's on YouTube. And, I hope you enjoy it. I did it for you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, have a great Thanksgiving if I don't speak to you before then. Bye.